Hello students, welcome to Veranda Race Institute. Today we are going to learn about salient features of Constitution. Students, here at Veranda Race Institute, we provide coaching for those aspirants who are aspiring to appear for competitive exams like PC, PSI, FDA, SDA. We Welcome to Veranda Race Institute. Sorry students. Today we are going to learn about Yes students. Here at Veranda Race Institute, we provide coaching for those students who are aspiring to appear for competitive exams such as PC, PSI, FDA, SDA, VAO, PDO and Group C examinations. And KPSC students, we haven't forgotten you. There's one good news for you. ಸದ್ಯದಲ್ಲೇ ಜೂನ್ 9th KPSC ಬ್ಯಾಚ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ವರಂಡಾ ರೇಸ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟಲ್ಲಿ. ಅರ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ಡ್ಸ್ಗೆ 15,000 ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಆಫರ್ ಕೂಡ ಇದೆ. And discount on the fees also. Link will be in the description, you can follow it. So students, I hope you have attended our previous classes where it was about introduction to constitution, what are democratic countries, why countries require constitution, and also our previous session regarding making of Indian constitution, how Indian constitution was drafted, who are all the constituent members, what was the procedure. If you have missed out on those classes, don't worry students, you can go back and attend after this session. But please be regular to our online classes, as here we have arranged it in a systematic and orderly manner. So if you attend our classes from the day one, from the first session, it will be in an orderly manner for you also to prepare for competitive exams. Having said that, let's start with today's class, which is salient features of Constitution, Indian Constitution. So, the first feature of our Indian Constitution, I have repeated this statement in our first two classes, that is, Indian Constitution is the world's lengthiest written constitution. World's lengthiest written constitution. It is also called as bulkiest constitution in the world. It's like elephant size constitution. That is how it has been compared with. Now why it is the lengthiest written constitution in the entire world? Let's see students. ಏನಕ್ಕಪ್ಪ ಭಾರತದ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಜಗತ್ತಲ್ಲೇ ಅತಿ ದೊಡ್ಡದಾದ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ. Original. Yesterday I told you students, Constitution of India was adopted on November 26, 1949. The constitution which was adopted on 1949, let's see what and all that constitution consisted, which was adopted on November 26, 1949. It had a preamble, 395 articles, 8 schedules and 22 parts. So the original constitution, Indian constitution, which was adopted on 1949 November 26, consisted of these: a preamble, 395 articles, 8 schedules, 22 parts. But present meaning I've taken till 2019. Till 2019, what and all has changed is Radha Naikar, namaste. Sripada Gowda Patil, namaste sir, namaste. Suresh Patil, namaste sir, namaste. Welcome to our class. In 2019, I mean present situation, what has happened is today the number of articles has raised from 395 to 470 articles. From 8 schedules we have reached till 12 schedules. From 22 parts we have reached to 25 parts. Students, I already said, one of the basic feature of constitution is constitution should be evolving, meaning constitution was adopted on 1949 November 26 according to the conditions which existed back then, but country won't be the same. As on the year passes, as on the time passes, everything changes. So country will be evolving, people will be evolving. If constitution is rigid, which is not evolving, then it will be a problem. So constitution should be evolving. Based on that evolving feature, today we have more articles. Obviously it should be more than original one. So today we have more articles. Already we had a lengthiest written constitution, bulkiest constitution, and day by day the number of articles have been added. Number of articles which have been repealed is less, but number of articles which have been added over the period of time is more. Now, also let's see other reasons why in India we have the lengthiest written constitution. Students, in last two classes also I have already mentioned Government of India Act 1935. ಪ್ರಜ್ವಲ್ ಅಂಬಾಜಿ ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಸರ್, ನನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿ, ಇವತ್ತು ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್. ಹಾಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಕೊಡಿ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಲಿಂಕ್ ಕಳಿಸ್ಕೊಡಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಲೈವ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಅವ್ರನ್ನೂ ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿ, ನಾಲೆಜ್ನ ಎಲ್ಲರ ಜೊತೆ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಸೊ ಐ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಸೆಡ್ ಇನ್ 2 classes students, Government of India Act 1935 has heavily influenced our constitution. Say there are more than 250 provisions which have been copied, or if you say if it has been drawn from our in the provisions from Government of India Act, more than 250 provisions have been drawn and adopted in our constitution. I also told you during the debate in the Constituent Assembly, some of the critics, they criticize our Indian constitution telling that what is there in our Indian constitution? It is the copy of Government of India Act 1935. That's how they criticize, because majority of the provisions, more than 250 provisions, are copied from the, or adopted or taken reference from the Government of India Act 1935. Even Baba Ambedkar ji also accepted this. Now let's see another reason. Another reason is, students, we have 28 states in our country, so we don't have separate constitution. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಸಂವಿಧಾನ, ಭಾರತ ದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಸಂವಿಧಾನ, ಕೇರಳಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಂವಿಧಾನ, ಭಾರತ ದೇಶಕ್ಕೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸಂವಿಧಾನ, ಆ ಥರ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲ ರಾಜ್ಯಗಳಿಗೂ ಹಾಗೂ ಭಾರತ ದೇಶಕ್ಕೂ ಇರೋದು ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್. ಸೊ ವಿ ಇನ್ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಕವರ್ಡ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಸ್, all 28 states, variety of people, diversified people, all languages, everything, entire India we have managed to put in one constitution. That is why, that is also one of the other reason why Indian constitution is lengthiest, bulkiest written constitution, because we have single constitution. ಒಂದೇ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ರಾಜ್ಯಗಳಿಗೂ ಹಾಗೂ ದೇಶಕ್ಕೂ. So this was one of our first and important feature. Let's move on to the second feature, students. Drawn from various sources. Students, we got freedom from Britishers on August 15, 1947. Before that, there were many other countries in world where they already had constitution and already they were running their government without outside interference. So obviously, when the task was given for the Constituent Assembly, ಸಂವಿಧಾನದ ಸಭೆಗೆ ಸಂವಿಧಾನನ ರಚಿಸಲು ಕೆಲಸ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಗ ಆಬ್ವಿಯಸ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಬೇರೆ ನೆರೆ ದೇಶಗಳನ್ನೂ ನೋಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವರಿಂದ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಅಂಶಗಳು ಏನು ತೊಗೊಬೋದಪ್ಪ ನಾವು. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಇಸ್ ಅ highly populated country, so in order to give best constitution, ತುಂಬ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಉತ್ತಮವಾದ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ತನ್ನ ಜನರಿಗೆ ಕೊಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇರೆ ನೆರೆ ದೇಶಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನಿದೆ ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಅಂಶ, ಅವರ ಸಂವಿಧಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳ್ಳೊಳ್ಳೆ ಅಂಶಗಳನ್ನ ಪಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದೇನಂತ ಒಂದೊಂದಾಗಿ ನೋಡೋಣ. ಜಸ್ಟ್ 2 minutes ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಐ ಟೋಲ್ಡ್ ಯು Government of India Act 1935 has heavily influenced our Indian constitution, and under them some of the important provisions are like federal plan. ಏನಪ್ಪ ಫೆಡರಲ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಅಂದರೆ? ಫೆಡರಲ್ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್, ಸಪೋಸ್ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇಂಟ್ರಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಅ ಸ್ಕೀಮ್, ಅ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಕೋಆರ್ಡಿನೇಟ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ನೀವು ತುಂಬ ಸ್ಕೀಮ್ನ ಕೇಳಿರ್ತೀರ. ಈ ಸ್ಕೀಮ್ ಇಂಟ್ರಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಯೂನಿಯನ್ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ಫಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಕೂಡ 90% ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಯೂನಿಯನ್ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟೇ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ, 10% ಫಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಹಾಕಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಮತ್ತು ಅದನ್ನು ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ talks about coordination. So what federal plan, the provision which was taken from the Government of India Act 1935 was federal plan, where union government and central, both federal in nature, they both coordinate for implementation or in the policy making. Second provision, provisions for emergencies. ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಏನಪ್ಪ? ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ? ಪ್ರಜ್ವಲ್ ಅಂಬಾಜಿ ಅವರೇ, ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀರಾ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ? ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ತುರ್ತು ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ. ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಅಂದರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಫೇಮಸ್ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಲೀಡರ್ ಆರ್ ಪ್ರೈಮ್ ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟರ್ ನೆನಪಾಗಬೇಕು, ಇಂದಿರಾಜಿ. The provisions of emergency. So what are the types of emergencies? We have national emergency, we have state or emergency or president's rule, we have financial emergency. Those provisions were taken from Government of India Act 1935. Let's see the third provision. Commissions of public service. What are the commissions of public service? Commissions of public service, what do we have today? Union Public Service Commission, State Public Service Commission, all those public service commission. Why it is required? It is required, it is important in order to recruit civil servants. Why civil servants? ದೇಶನ ಆಡಳಿತ ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, how to administer the country. Civil servants are required to administer the country. They are the backbone of Indian administration. In order to recruit them in the most systematic, fair, transparent manner, we need public service commission. That's why our forefathers, constituent assembly members, they thought this is a good provision, ತುಂಬ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯ ಅಂಶ ಇದು, ಇದನ್ನು ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ 1935 ಇಂದ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್, ಗವರ್ನರ್ಸ್ ಆಫೀಸ್. ಗವರ್ನರ್ಸ್ ಆಫೀಸ್ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಗವರ್ನರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಏನಂತಾರೆ? ರಾಧಾ ನಾಯ್ಕರ್ ಅವರೇ, ಗವರ್ನರ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ? ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಗವರ್ನರ್ ತಾವರ್ ಗೆಹ್ಲೋಟ್ ಜಿ ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಗವರ್ನರ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದು. ಏನಂತಾರೆ ಗವರ್ನರ್ಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ? ರಾಜ್ಯಪಾಲರು. ಸೊ ದ ಆಫೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಗವರ್ನರ್ was taken from Government of India Act 1935. Office of Governor is very important when your country is federal in structure. Now judiciary. ಜುಡಿಷರಿಗೆ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ? ಕಮೆಂಟ್ ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಏನಾದರೂ ಸದ್ದು ಮಾಡಿ. ಜುಡಿಷರಿ ನ್ಯಾಯಾಂಗ. ಜುಡಿಷರಿ ವೈ ಜುಡಿಷರಿ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಜುಡಿಷರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪಾಲಿಟಿಷಿಯನ್ಸ್ ದೇಶನ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಊಹೆ ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಜುಡಿಷರಿ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ in this democratic country to survive. Administrative specifics. Some of the administrative provisions also were borrowed from the Government of India Act 1935. ಈ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟ್ 1935 ಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಏನಿದ್ರು ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಅಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ಸ್. ಇದು ಈ ಫೋಟೋ ಯಾವಾಗ ತೆಗೆದಿರೋದು ಅಂದರೆ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟ್ 1935 ಸಹಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗೆದಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಈ ಫ್ಲಾಗ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂದರೆ, ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಬಾರೋಡ್ ಸಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪ್ರಾವಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ US Constitution also. I told you in last 2 previous classes also, US Constitution is one of the oldest constitution in the world. ನಾವು 1947ವರೆಗೂ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಅಂಡರಲ್ಲಿ, ಕೊಲೋನಿಯಲ್ ರೂಲ್ ಅಂಡರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ವಿ. ಅದಾದಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯ ಸಿಕ್ತು. ಆದರೆ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷರ್ಸ್ ಲಾಂಗ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ in 1700s only they gained freedom. ಸಿವಿಲ್ ವಾರ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ನಡೆದೋಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಕೂಡ ಬಂದಿತ್ತು. ಸೊ ವಿ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಬಾರೋಡ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಓಲ್ಡೆಸ್ಟ್ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ US Constitution, and this is USA's flag. ಏನಪ್ಪ ಫಸ್ಟು? ಪ್ರಿಯಾಂಬಲ್. ಕಮೆಂಟ್ ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಶ್ರೀಪಾದ ಗೌಡ ಪಾಟೀಲ್ ಅವರೇ, ಸುರೇಶ್ ಪಾಟೀಲ್ ಅವರೇ, ಅಣ್ಣ ತಮ್ಮರ ನೀವು? ಪ್ರಜ್ವಲ್ ಅಂಬಾಜಿ, ರಾಧಾ ನಾಯ್ಕರ್, ಕಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಏನಂತಾರೆ ಪ್ರಿಯಾಂಬಲ್ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ? ಪೀಠಿಕೆಗಳು. ಪ್ರಿಯಾಂಬಲ್ನ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಪೀಠಿಕೆಗಳು ಅಂತಾರೆ. Okay, what is the meaning of preamble? Our next session will be on preamble only, but still I'll give you general introduction or meaning of preamble. Preamble is considered as an identity card or preface of the constitution, meaning ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಫಿಲಮ್ಗೂ ಒಂದು ಟ್ರೈಲರ್ ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಟ್ರೈಲರ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಮೂವಿ ಏನದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗೆ preamble is like a trailer. It's a mini version, it's an identity card, it's a preface. it gives glimpse of what is in Indian Constitution. That is what preamble. In our next session, that is all about preamble. So don't miss the next session. Preamble was borrowed from USA Constitution. Second, fundamental rights. Very important. ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ? ಬಿ ಎಲ್ ದಲವಾಯಿ, ನಮಸ್ತೆ. ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಸರ್, ಬಿ ಎಲ್ ದಲವಾಯಿ. ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ? ತುಂಬ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಪಾಲಿಟಿ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್. ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳು. ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳು. Fundamental rights were copied from US Constitution, which is very important. Then the federal government structure. So you might get confused. Federal plan, I told you federal plan, the policy or the plan program implementation by coordinating between center and state, that was one taken from Government of India Act 1935. But there was other thing which is federal government structure. What is federal government structure? Meaning government, union government transferring some of the powers or giving some sort of autonomy powers to the state. That is called federal structure. Like state subjects, there are few state subjects where states have all the power to make legislation on it, like agriculture, land, all these are state subjects. Union cannot interfere on it until unless there is emergency. Now, College of Electors. What is College of Electors? ಇವಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ಗೆ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸೋದು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಲ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್. ವಾಟ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದೋಸ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಲ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್? MP and MLS consist of electoral college which votes for presidential election. So this college, electoral college, Matadarara college, this one was borrowed from US Constitution. Very important. Another provision which was borrowed from USA and which very important is separation of powers and independence of judiciary. Independence of judiciary in a democratic country is very important. Just imagine students, Supreme Court judge or High Court judge listening to politician, ಸರ್ ಈ ಕೇಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಏನು ವರ್ಡಿಕ್ಟ್ ಕೊಡಲಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸರ್ಕಾರಗೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರೋ ಥರ ವರ್ಡಿಕ್ಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ ಹೇಳಿ ಸರ್. ಈ ಥರ ಆದರೆ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್ ದ ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೇಸಸ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ, ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ litigation cases in India which goes in favor of rich people, powerful people, all the ordinary citizens of India, where they should live. It is very important for independence judiciary. There should be no interventions from the ruling government in the judiciary. The judges of High Court, Supreme Court, they decide the case based on the merit, based on the faithful merit, based on the ನ್ಯಾಯ ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಅವ್ರು ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಕೇಸನ್ನು ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರಾವಿಷನ್ ವಾಸ್ ಬಾರೋಡ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ US Constitution. And also students, this is very important. Who is the supreme commander of Indian armed forces? India the defense forces ಏನಿದೆ, Air Force, Naval Force, Indian Army. Who is the supreme commander of it? President. President is the supreme commander of defense forces in India. The same provision was borrowed from USA Constitution. It's not the Prime Minister, it's the President. The defense officers, they hold warrant under President. President is their supreme commander, the first person of India. The President, he or she is the supreme commander of Indian Armed Forces. Another provision is equal legal protection. Equal legal protection. In the upcoming classes, I'll be telling you what do you mean by due process of law. Very important in polity exam. whether it's UPSC, KPSC, any competitive exam, examiner, if he wants to check your knowledge on judiciary or law, he will be asking you about either due process of law or procedure established by law. Because I'll be telling you in just next slide only, I'll be telling you due process of law was taken by Britishers. It was borrowed from UK Constitution, whereas procedure established by law was borrowed from USA Constitution. So what do you mean by due process of law? What do you mean by procedure established by law? I'll be explaining in the upcoming slide. So these are all the provisions which were borrowed from the US Constitution, and these were some of the provisions which were borrowed from the Government of India Act 1935. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ? ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಪ್ರಜ್ವಲ್ ಅಂಬಾಜಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ? ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್, BL ದಲವಾಯಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ತುಂಬ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಟಿವ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಬಂದೇ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ ಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ಸಿ, ಯಾವ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ಫ್ಲಾಗ್ ಇದು? UK, United Kingdom's flag this is. Yes, obviously when we have borrowed provisions from USA with whom we don't have any link at that point of time, obviously the Britishers, the United Kingdom which has ruled us, we will be borrowing some of the provisions from them also. Let's see what all those provisions were. Parliamentary form of government. Students, in our first session I explained you, under indirect democracy there are two types of government under indirect democracy, that is presidential system, parliamentary system, and I also told you India is the indirect democratic parliamentary system of government, not presidential form of government. See that provision, India today is a indirect democratic parliamentary system government which is borrowed from United Kingdom, British Constitution. Second provision, ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಶಿಪ್. ಏನಪ್ಪ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಶಿಪ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ? BL ದಲವಾಯಿ ಹೇಳಿ, ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಶಿಪ್ಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ? ನಮಗೆ ಡು ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟೂ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಶಿಪ್ ಇನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್? ಲೈಕ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ, ಐ ಬಿಲಾಂಗ್ ಟು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ. ಡು ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಶಿಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಶಿಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ? ಡು ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟೂ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಶಿಪ್ಸ್? No students. In India, we adopted single citizenship which we borrowed from the UK Constitution. We don't have dual citizenship. Single citizenship throughout India, you will be citizen of India no matter what, in which state you are. That was borrowed from UK Constitution. Single citizenship ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರಪ್ಪ ಅಂದರೆ ಏಕ ಪೌರತ್ವ. ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಶಿಪ್ಗೆ ಪೌರತ್ವ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ, ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಶಿಪ್ಗೆ ಏಕ ಪೌರತ್ವ. ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. In the upcoming classes, when we start with the articles, I'll be explaining you when the part comes about citizenship. Rule of law. I just told you 1 minute back. Due process of law has been borrowed from UK Constitution, due process of law. But procedure established by law is adopted from USA Constitution, Japan Constitution. I'll be explaining that also. Writs. Writs. What do you mean by writs? Students, online students, writs na ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? What are writs? Where do you come across writs? Which article? Writs in the article, under Article 32 constitutional remedies, there are certain writs which are enforced by courts when fundamental rights are abrogated. ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರು ಲಾನ ತಗೊಂಬಂದು ಆ ಲಾ ಸಾರ್ವಜನಿಕರ ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳನ್ನು ವಿರುದ್ಧವಾಗಿದ್ದರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಕೋರ್ಟಿಗೆ ಹೋದರೆ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಹೈಕೋರ್ಟ್ issues writ telling that whatever law you have passed, whatever bill you have passed that is abrogating, violating the fundamental rights of my citizens, so take it back or amend it. For that, writs are very important, which we will be discussing in detail in our upcoming sessions. Speakers institution and role. Where do we have speaker, students? Without speaker, without speaker, how does the parliament or the assembly run? Without the presiding officer, whether it's in the state or in the parliament center, presiding officer is very important. Lower house speaker, upper house chairman, very important presiding officer. The office of speaker was borrowed from UK Constitution. Legislative process, the passing of bills, act, ಹೇಗೆ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟಲ್ಲಿ, how the bills are introduced, how it is put to vote, if it's a budget, how it is put to vote, normal provision, laws also, what type of majority is required for it, and what in which bills Rajya Sabha has power, in which bills Lok Sabha has more power. All this process were also borrowed from UK institution, that is British institution, and this is where due process of law comes in. Always remember, students, due process of law borrowed from British Constitution, procedure established by law, adopted by USA, Japan. USA and Japan. Now next, see, we also adopted some of the provisions from Irish Constitution, Ireland. So this is the flag of Ireland. ನೋಡಿ, ಉದ್ದುದ್ದ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಐರ್ಲೆಂಡ್ ಫ್ಲಾಗ್. ಈ ಕಲರ್ಸ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಫ್ಲಾಗ್ ಅಡ್ಡಡ್ಡ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಶೋಕ ಚಕ್ರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಐರ್ಲೆಂಡ್ ಫ್ಲಾಗ್ ಉದ್ದುದ್ದ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಐರ್ಲೆಂಡ್ ಫ್ಲಾಗ್. ಸೊ ಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ಸಿ. DPSP, polity students, those who are preparing for competitive exams, DPSP, very important topic after fundamental rights. What are DPSPs? Directive principles of state policy, which have been borrowed from Irish Constitution. Next, members of the Rajya Sabha who are nominated. Now students, we all know Lok Sabha members are elected. General elections ಆಗುತ್ತೆ 5 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೊಂದ್ಸಲಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ರಚನೆ ಆದಮೇಲೆ. ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ವೋಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ MPsಗೆ, ಲೋಕಸಭಾ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ಗೆ. ಅದಾದಮೇಲೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ರಚನೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾವುದು ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೀಟ್ಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ವಿನ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. Now when it comes to Rajya Sabha, does all members get elected, students? Or so there are some of the members who get nominated also? In Rajya Sabha, okay, Rajya Sabha strength ಏನು? Comment section, please let me know what is the strength of Rajya Sabha. In Rajya Sabha, out of 250 members, not all 250 members are elected. In Rajya Sabha, out of 250 members, only 238 members are elected. Rest of the 12 members are nominated by President. They are nominated by President on terms of achieving great feat in social service, art, and there is no sports, students. Students get confused. Sports. ನಮ್ಮ ಸಚಿನ್ ತೆಂಡೂಲ್ಕರ್ ರಾಜ್ಯಸಭಾ ಮೆಂಬರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಹಾಗಂತ ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ತುಂಬ ಉನ್ನತ ಅಚೀವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ರಾಜ್ಯಸಭಾ ಮೆಂಬರ್ ನಾಮಿನೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದಾ? ಸಚಿನ್ ತೆಂಡೂಲ್ಕರ್ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಸೋಷಲ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ರಾಜ್ಯಸಭಾಗೆ ನಾಮಿನೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ರಾಜ್ಯಸಭಾಗೆ ನಾಮಿನೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಕ್ಯಾಟಗರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅಚೀವ್ಡ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಇನ್ ಸೋಷಲ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್, ಇನ್ ಲಿಟ್ರೇಚರ್, ಇನ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್, art. So there are only 4 categories on which a person can be nominated. So that I will be explaining you in detail in our upcoming sessions when we take up Rajya Sabha as whole. Just tilkodi, Rajya Sabha partly nominated, partly elected. That and the nominated part was borrowed from Ireland Constitution. Method of presidential election. What is the method of presidential election in India, students? Allu KSP, Jai RCB. ಹೌದು, ಜೈ ಆರ್ ಸಿ ಬಿ. Method of presidential election. Students, we know in India, citizens of the country, they don't take part in the election of president. The electoral college of president consists of MLAs and MPs. We don't vote for president directly, and that method of election of president was borrowed from Ireland constitution. I hope you have understood. Let's move on to next. Let's see, there are also some other provisions which have been borrowed. Okay, we have come to the question. Based on what we have learned just now, few seconds back, we can easily solve this question. What does this question say? Concept of directive principles of state policy. ಇವಾಗ ತಾನೇ 10 ಸೆಕೆಂಡಿಂದ ಅದನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದು? ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆನೇ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಇದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದು? The concept of directive principles of state policy in the Indian Constitution has been borrowed from the Constitution of which country? Comment section. BL Dalawai ಅವರು just 5 seconds back we saw directive principles of state policy have been borrowed from Irish constitution. So based on this, you will be marking Ireland. This is one of the previous year questions which was asked in the competitive exam. Very important. Now, Constitution of France. Let's see what are the constitutions of France which was borrowed and adopted in the Indian Constitution. The term republic and the values of liberty, equality, fraternity. What do you mean by republic, students? ತುಂಬ ಕೇಳ್ತಿರ್ತೀರಲ್ಲ, India is a republic country. Republic. Is United Kingdom a republic country? Students, the term republic in polity means the head of the state. The head of the state is elected, which is not elected, which is not hereditary. ಅಂದರೆ ಇವಾಗೇನು ದ್ರೌಪದಿ ಮುರ್ಮು ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ, ದ್ರೌಪದಿ ಮುರ್ಮು ಏನು ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರಪತಿಗಳಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವರು ಹೆರಿಡಿಟರಿ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು. ಹಾಗೂ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಟರ್ಮ್ 5 ವರ್ಷ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಮತ್ತೊಬ್ಬ ಯಾರು ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ. ಯುನೈಟೆಡ್ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಅ ರಿಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಕಿಂಗ್, ದ ಹೆಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ, ಕಿಂಗ್ ಈಸ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಆನ್ ಹೆರಿಡಿಟರಿ ಕಿಂಗ್ಶಿಪ್ ಇದೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯುನೈಟೆಡ್ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮಲ್ಲಿ ರಾಜ ಮನೆತನ ಇದೆ. ಪ್ರತಿ ವರ್ಷ ಹೆಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ ಅವ್ರದ್ದೇನಿದೆ, ಒಬ್ಬ ರಾಜದಿಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬ ರಾಜಗೆ ಅದು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಥರ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ದ ಹೆಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ರಿಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್. ರಿಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ದ ಹೆಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ based on hereditary basis, but he or she is elected. Very important. And the values of liberty, equality, fraternity. Liberty ಅಂದರೆ ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯ. ಲಿಬರ್ಟಿ ಟು ದ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಸ್. ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯ ಇದೆ ನಮಗೆ ಈಚೆ ಓಡಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಪಾರ್ಕಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಕುತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಇದಕ್ಕೆಲ್ಲ ನಮಗೆ ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯ ಇದೆ. ಈಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ, ಸಮಾನತೆ, ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಭೇದ ಭಾವ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಿನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ ದುಡ್ಡಿದೆ, ನೀನು ಆಸ್ತಿವಂತ, ನೀನು ಬಡವ, ನಿಮ್ಮಿಬ್ಬರ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಭೇದ ಭಾವ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಮಾನತೆ ತುಂಬ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಈ ಪ್ರಜಾಪ್ರಭುತ್ವದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ತುಂಬ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಲಿಬರ್ಟಿ, ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯ, ಈಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ, ಸಮಾನತೆ, ಫ್ರೆಟರ್ನಿಟಿ, ಭ್ರಾತೃತ್ವ. ಫ್ರೆಟರ್ನಿಟಿಗೆ ಭ್ರಾತೃತ್ವ ಅಂತಾರೆ. ಏನಪ್ಪ ಫ್ರೆಟರ್ನಿಟಿ ಅಂದರೆ, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಕಾಮನ್ ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಬ್ರದರ್ಹುಡ್. ಅಂದರೆ ಟೀಚರ್ಸ್ we have common thing, we teach to students, so we are teaching fraternity. Bikers, They do bike ride together. They all have bikes. They are called biking fraternity. Doctors, medical fraternity. So these provisions were borrowed from France. Let's see, some of the provisions were also borrowed for South Africa. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಸೌತ್ ಆಫ್ರಿಕಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಂಗೆ ನೆನಪಾಗಬೇಕು ಒಬ್ಬರು. ಹೆಂಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಗಾಂಧೀಜಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ, ಸೌತ್ ಆಫ್ರಿಕಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಂಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ತುಂಬ 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 ಉನ್ನತವಾಗಿರೋ ಒಬ್ಬರು ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ನೆನಪಾಗಬೇಕು. ಸುಮಾರು ವರ್ಷಗಟ್ಟಲೆ 20 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮೇಲೆ, ಸುಮಾರು 30-40 ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಜೈಲಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ನೆಲ್ಸನ್ ಮಂಡೇಲಾ. So let's see what provisions were borrowed from South Africa. The modification procedure, meaning amendment procedure. The amendment procedure, the amendment to the Constitution, Article 368. ಮುಂದೆ ನೋಡೋಣ ಆರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ 368 ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಯಾವ ಥರ ಅಮೆಂಡ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಆಲ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪ್ರಾವಿಷನ್, ದ ಅಮೆಂಡ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರಾವಿಷನ್ ವಾಸ್ ಟೇಕನ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಸೌತ್ ಆಫ್ರಿಕಾ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್. ದೆನ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ರಾಜ್ಯಸಭಾ. ಜಸ್ಟ್ ವಿ saw Rajya Sabha is both elected and nominated. The nomination part of provision was taken from Ireland, but the election provision was taken from the South African Constitution. And Article 51A, fundamental duties. Some of the provisions of fundamental duties were taken from South Africa. Now, a South Africa flag, is a France flag, is a Germany flag. Now let's see what were the provisions were taken from Germany. Germany, again, when I take up the name Germany in the history, you should be remembering controversial or very prominent figure, Adolf Hitler. What he was known as dictator. So what was the provisions which were taken from Germany Constitution? The Union will have emergency powers. Obviously, Adolf Hitler was known as dictator, a negative thing. Now, what is negative thing here? Emergency power. So obviously it has to be from a country like Germany. Fundamental rights to be suspended. Again, this is also negative. ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳನ್ನ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಸಸ್ಪೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. Meaning, during time of emergency, you can also violate the fundamental rights of the people. That provision was taken from Constitution of Germany. ಇದು ಹೇಗಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳನ್ನು ಸಂವಿಧಾನನೇ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ ಜನರಿಗೆ, ಮತ್ತು ನೆಸೆಸಿಟಿ ಬಂದಾಗ ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಅದು ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಕಿತ್ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳನ್ನು. ಆ ಥರ ಪ್ರಾವಿಷನ್ಸ್ ರಚಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಸಂವಿಧಾನದಲ್ಲಿ. Constitution of Japan, I told you, due process of law is borrowed from British Constitution, but procedure established by law is adopted from Japan Constitution, and procedure established by law is also followed in USA, but adopted from Japan. Fundamental responsibilities, I told you some of the fundamental responsibilities, meaning duties, were also taken from Japan. And the concept of social, economical, political justice, ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕ ನ್ಯಾಯ, ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ನ್ಯಾಯ, ರಾಜಕೀಯ ನ್ಯಾಯ. The social, economical and political justice was taken from Japanese Constitution. See students, how many number of countries we have borrowed the Constitution, some of the provisions of Constitution. USA, Ireland, France, Japan, UK, Russia, Australia. Now let's see what are the provisions were borrowed from Australia. Freedom of trade and commerce inside between the countries. Right students? Today, if you are a businessman, you can go trade. You can engage in trade and commerce all over India, in any state. That freedom you have, that provision was borrowed from Australian Constitution. Power of the nation, legislature to enact legislation and execute, which is very important. That was also borrowed from Australian Constitution. And list of concurrent list, the concurrent list. In Indian Constitution, we have union list. There are certain subjects under union list which only union can make laws or provision. Union can frame laws on it. State has no right to form laws on it. And also we have state list where there are subjects under state list where only state or state has the ultimate authority to make laws on it. And there are also concurrent list subjects where both union and state both together can make laws, but when it comes to ultimate authority, union has the ultimate authority on the subjects in the concurrent list. So let's see the third feature of Indian Constitution, which is blend of rigidity and flexibility. Blend andre ಏನಪ್ಪ? Blend are nothing but mix, blend of rigidity and flexibility. This is like both are opposite words. Flexible word is opposite to rigid word. So let's see how it is blend of rigidity and flexibility, meaning Indian Constitution can be amended, but it doesn't mean that everything, all the provisions can be amended. Example, if there is any amendment violating the fundamental rights of the Constitution, fundamental rights of the people, that law, that amendment is invalid. But when there are certain amendments in the Constitution which is in the view of providing positive effect to the citizens of India, that amendment is possible, that amendment can take place. That is how Indian Constitution is blend of rigidity and flexibility. And I told you, Article 368 amendment, from which constitution did we borrow? South African Constitution. We borrowed amendment procedure from the South African Constitution. And under Article 368, there are two types of amendments: amendment by special majority of the Parliament and amendment by a special majority of the Parliament and half of the ratification of the states, which I will be explaining to you in detail in our upcoming classes. So for time being, you have to just remember under Article 368, special majority amendment and half of the ratification of the state, two types of amendments. And there are also some provisions which can be amended by simple majority. That is the third type of majority, or one of that is also how you can amend the procedure in the Constitution, the provisions in the Constitution. Let's quickly move to the question. Which of the following features indicate that Indian Constitution is both rigid and flexible? I just told you. Why do we call Indian Constitution as both rigid and flexible? Why? Because of judicial review? No way. Judicial review is nowhere connected to it. By single citizenship? Again, no way it is connected to it. By amendment procedure under Article 368, I just told you, amendment article under Article 368 borrowed from South African Constitution. That is why Indian Constitution is evolving, and that is why Indian Constitution is both rigid and flexible. Fundamental duties, it has nothing to do with whatever the question it is asked regarding rigid and flexible. Now you might be wondering, sir, which country's flag is this? There is some leaf and there is this thing. Students, this is flag of two countries because the federation system with unitary bias. This provision is taken from Canada. So this is what Canada flag is. Canada flag, this is how it will be. The parliamentary form of government was borrowed from UK, British Constitution, and this is the flag of British. So what is federation system with unitary bias? I already told you, federation system is union giving some of the power, some of the autonomy to the states to carry on. So that is what federation system. But what is unitary bias? I also told you, though union gives certain powers to the state, certain autonomies to the state, but all this can be taken back or cancelled during the time of emergency. During the time of emergency, state has no power. State will be like this during time of emergency, and union will be like this. Union is the ultimate power, ultimate authority during emergency. State power is diminished and union will become very, very, very powerful. That this provision was taken from UK. And also students, Article 1, which will be taking up in the upcoming session, Article 1. In Article 1 also, The word federation is nowhere used in the constitution. It is used, what is India? India is a union of states, not a federation of states, because all these states, Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, all these 28 states, they never came into agreement and then formed a country called India. ಭಾರತ ದೇಶ ಏನು ನಮ್ಮದು 28 ರಾಜ್ಯಗಳಿದೆ. ಆ 28 ರಾಜ್ಯನೂ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಒಪ್ಪಂದ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಭಾರತ ಅನ್ನೋ ದೇಶನ ಕಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ. ಭಾರತ ಅನ್ನೋ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ 28 ರಾಜ್ಯಗಳು ತನ್ನ ಡಿವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಅಡ್ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ಗಾಗಿ, ಆಡಳಿತ ನಡ್ಸೋಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಈಸಿ ಆಗಲಿ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಆ ರೀಜನಲ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಭಾರತ ಅನ್ನೋ ದೇಶನ ರಾಜ್ಯಗಳಾಗಿ ಡಿವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ ವಿನಃ ರಾಜ್ಯಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಬಂದು ಭಾರತ ದೇಶನ ಕಟ್ಟಲಿಲ್ಲ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೈ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಫೆಡರೇಷನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ವಿತ್ ಯೂನಿಟರಿ ಬಯಾಸ್. Now, parliamentary form of government. I told you it is borrowed from British, and I also told you India is an indirect democracy, indirect parliamentary form of government, not presidential form of government. That was in America. President is the ultimate head. President is the ultimate authority of the government. When it comes to India, it is parliamentary system, meaning majority party, prime minister, leader of the majority party has more power. Now let's quickly solve this question based on whatever knowledge you have gained till now. Which of the following best describes the nature of Indian federal system? ಇವಾಗ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಫೆಡರಲ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್? ಫೆಡರಲ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಏನು? ಫೆಡರಲ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್, ಒಂದು ಒಪ್ಪಂದ, ಯೂನಿಯನ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪವರ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ, ನೀವು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅಟಾನಮಿ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ ಅಂತ. Now, which of the following best describes the nature of Indian federal system? Purely federal with equal powers to states. Wrong. I just told you. In India, center and states, they don't share equal power. They share power such that union has more power, states have less power. Purely unitary with all powers concentrated with states. This is also extreme and negative statement. I just told you, in India, union has given, in the constitution, some of the powers from the union are being given to the state. So even state has some powers. So this statement is wrong. Third, quasi-federal, meaning some soft nature of federal where some of the powers of union is transferred to the states, but when time comes, during the time of emergency, that is taken back. Quasi-federal with a strong central bias. We just read about it. Correct answer. And if you see the fourth statement, confederal with states having more power than center. States having more power than center in India. Is it possible? Even if you don't have any knowledge about polity, you can just cancel the statement. So you'll arrive at right answer, which is C option C. Let's see the fourth question. The feature of parliamentary form of government in India implies all of the following except. What do you mean by parliamentary form of government? I just told you. What do you mean by parliamentary form of government? Presence of nominal and real executives. Majority party rule. I just told you, in parliament government there will be nominal, real executive. Nominal president, real prime minister. Yes, we do have in India. Majority party rule. I just told you, in parliamentary form of system government in country, majority party, the majority party leader will become prime minister and the majority party will rule the country. It forms the government. Correct statement. Fixed tenure of the executive. Oh really? Do the executives in India, do they have fixed tenure? ಒಂದ್ಸಲಿ ಪವರ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇನಾ? ಪವರಿಂದ ಅವ್ರು ಕೆಳಗೆ ಇಳಿಯೋದೇ ಇಲ್ವಾ? ಫುಲ್ ಅವ್ರ ವಯಸ್ಸು ಮುಗಿಯೋರ್ಗು, ಆಯಸ್ ಮುಗಿಯೋರು, ರಿಟೈರ್ಡ್ ಆಗೋರ್ಗು ಪವರಲ್ಲೇ ಇರ್ತಾರಾ? ನೋ. Wrong statement. There are fixed period in terms of number of years, like 5 years. ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಒಂದ್ಸಲಿ ರಚಿಸಿದ ಮೇಲೆ, ಜನರಲ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ 5 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಕಾಲ ಆಡಳಿತ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, 5 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಕಾಲ ಪವರ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅದಾದ ಮತ್ತೆ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಲೇಬೇಕು. ಫುಲ್ಲು ಲೈಫ್ ಲಾಂಗ್ ಅವ್ರ ಪವರಲ್ಲಿ ಇರಲ್ಲ. Fourth statement, collective responsibility of executive to the legislator. Yes, this exists. In parliamentary form of government, there is a collective responsibility of the executive to the legislature. Legislature ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾರು? ಶಾಸಕಾಂಗ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟಿವ್ ಕಾರ್ಯನಿರ್ವಾಹಕಗಳು. There is responsibility of executive to the legislature. Now, synthesis of parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy. Synthesis, what do you mean by synthesis? Synthesis ಅಂದರೆ ಅಗೈನ್ ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲೇನು ಬ್ಲೆಂಡ್ ಅಂತ ವರ್ಡ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಬ್ಲೆಂಡ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪದನೇ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಬ್ಲೆಂಡ್. ಹಾಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಸಿಂಥಸಿಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಏನು? ಈ ಎರಡು ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟರಿ ಸಾವರ್ನಿಟಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಜುಡಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಸುಪ್ರೀಮಸಿ, ಬೋತ್ ಆಫ್ ದೆಮ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಬೀನ್ ಸಿಂಥಸಿಸ್, ಮೀನ್ ಆರ್ಟಿಫಿಷಿಯಲಿ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಬೀನ್ altered in such a way that it suits us. Let's see what is parliamentary sovereignty. ಏನಪ್ಪ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ರಿ ಸಾವರ್ನಿಟಿ ಅಂದರೆ? ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ರಿ ಸಾವರ್ನಿಟಿ ಅಂದರೆ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮೇಕ್ಸ್, ನಮ್ದೇನಿದೆ ರಾಜ್ಯಸಭೆ ಲೋಕಸಭೆ ಏನಿದೆ, ಏನೇ ಲಾ ಏನೇ ಬಿಲ್ ಅವ್ರ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಟ್ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅದೇ ಅಲ್ಟಿಮೇಟ್. ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಏನೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳಿಗೆ ವಿರುದ್ಧವಾಗಿದ್ರು ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ರಿಪೀಲ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಿದೆಯಾ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ? ನೋ, ದೇರ್ ಈಸ್ ಸಿಂಥಸಿಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟರಿ ಸಾವರ್ನಿಟಿ. ಎನಿ ಲಾಸ್, ಎನಿ ಪ್ರಾವಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಪಾಸ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ದ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟರಿ ಸಾವರ್ನಿಟಿ, ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಜುಡಿಷಿಯರಿ. ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಯಾವುದೇ ಲಾ ಮಾಡಲಿ, ಅದೇನಾದರೂ ನಮ್ಮ ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳಿಗೆ ವಿರುದ್ಧವಾಗಿದ್ದರೆ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ. ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಲಾಸ್ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಏನು ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳನ್ನ ವಿರುದ್ಧವಾಗಿದ್ದು ಅದನ್ನು ರದ್ದು ಮಾಡಿರುತ್ತೆ. ತುಂಬ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ನಮಗೆ. ಸೊ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟರಿ ಸಾವರ್ನಿಟಿ, ಜುಡಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಸುಪ್ರೀಮೆನ್ಸಿ. ಹಾಗೂ ಜುಡಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಸುಪ್ರೀಮೆನ್ಸಿ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಈವನ್ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ರೋಲ್ ಟು ಇಂಟರ್ವೀನ್ ಇನ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೆಜಿಸ್ಲೇಷನ್. If some act is passed by parliament and which is very violative of fundamental right and people are protesting in all over the country, then Supreme Court decide to intervene. For every law, every bill passed by the parliament, Supreme Court doesn't intervene because even it has limitation. That is what this means. Synthesis of parliamentary sovereignty and judicial supremacy. ನಮ್ಮ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ, ಭಾರತ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡೂ ಇದೆ. ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟರಿ sovereignty ಇದೆ, ಜುಡಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಸುಪ್ರೀಮಸಿ ಇದೆ, ಬಟ್ ನಾಟ್ ಇನ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅದರ್ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ. ಲೈಕ್ ಇನ್ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ sovereignty of the parliament, meaning whatever the laws passed by the parliament, judiciary has no power as such of parliament to question it or repeal it. Same in terms of American parliament, it's a principle of judicial supremacy. Ultimately whatever law or bill you pass, judiciary will intervene and it will decide whether it should be cleared or not, whether it is good for people or not. And as I already told you, in American Constitution, this has been interchanged. It's procedure established by law in American Constitution. It's due process of law followed in the Indian Constitution, which I'll be explaining you in detail in the upcoming sessions. Integrated and independent judiciary. What do you mean by integrated and independent judiciary? In India, we have a systematic order of authority of courts, starting from lower court. Above lower court, there is district court. Above district court, we have high court. Above high court, we have Supreme Court. See, lower court power, lower court kinta powerful yadu district court kinta powerful yadu high court kinta powerful Supreme Court. In India, we have independent judiciary, meaning what do you mean by independent judiciary? The tenure of the judges of Supreme Court, High Court is fixed. ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಜಡ್ಜ್, ಹೈಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಜಡ್ಜ್ನ ಅಷ್ಟು ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ತೆಗ್ದಾಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರ ಪೋಸ್ಟಿಂದ. ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ has to pass, both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha has to pass by voting to remove any Supreme Court, High Court judge. That's how powerful it is, the post of Supreme Court, High Court judge. That's why it makes them independent. And also for finance, all those expenses of High Court and Supreme Court are charged to the Consolidated Fund of India. If you know, students, the amount in the Consolidated Fund of India is not put to vote. It can only be discussed. It is not put to vote, meaning it is immune. Supreme Court and High Court cannot be cut. The funding to them, the financial resources to them can't be cut by any ruling government. In Indian judicial system, this is a systematic order of court, whereas in American judicial system, there is two type of judicial system, because federal laws are managed by federal judiciary, state laws are managed by state judiciary. They are two separate courts. Sometimes federal judiciary and state judiciary, sometimes they are in a conflict. Regarding some of the bills and acts, because in USA, in state laws have the ultimate authority. Whatever the federal law is passed, ultimately the governor of the states, the people of the states, they have the right to decide whether it can be applicable to our state or not, because in USA there are 50 states. Fundamental rights, ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳು. As I already taught you, this has been borrowed from US Constitution, United States of America, US Constitution. Taza, correct answer, option C, it was correct answer. Fundamental rights, ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳು, borrowed from USA Constitution, Article 14 to 32. All this fundamental constitution I already told you. Under Article 2, there are writs issued by courts, high courts, Supreme Court, whenever the fundamental rights of people have been violated. So Supreme Court issues writs for restoration of these rights. Now, I already told you, ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಜನರಿಗೆ ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳನ್ನು ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ಸಮಯ ಬಂದಾಗ, ಅಗತ್ಯ ಬಿದ್ದಾಗ ಸಂವಿಧಾನನೇ ಆ ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳನ್ನು ಜನರ ಹತ್ರ ಕಿತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವ ಸಮಯ ಬಂದಾಗ? ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಸಮಯ, ತುರ್ತು ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಬಂದಾಗ. ಅದೇ ಇಲ್ಲಿದೆ, ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಸ್ಯಾಕ್ರೋಸೆಂಟ್. ಅಂದರೆ ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ ಏನು, ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಏನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಏನು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ, ಅದು ತುಂಬ ಅಲ್ಟಿಮೇಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ಒಂದು ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಮೇಲೆ. ನಾರ್ಮಲ್ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳು ನಿಮಗೆ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆದರೆ ತುರ್ತು ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಆರ್ ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಬಂದಾಗ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ, ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಟೇಕ್ಸ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ದೋಸ್ ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್. ತಲಾ ಅವರೇ ಈ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಗೂ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ತುಂಬ ಈಸಿ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಇದು, ಪ್ರೀವಿಯಸ್ ಇಯರ್ ಕಾಂಪಿಟೇಟಿವ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ದ ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ರೈಟ್ಸ್ ಎನ್ಶ್ರೈನ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಆರ್ absolute and cannot be restricted. ಹೌದಾ? ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳು ಏನು ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಭಾರತ ದೇಶದ ಪ್ರಜೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ವಾಪಸ್ ಅದನ್ನು ಹಿಂದೆ ಪಡೆಯೋಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ವಾ? ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ವಯೋಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ವಾ? ಇವಾಗ ತಾನೇ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ, ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಮೂಲಭೂತ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳನ್ನ ಸಂವಿಧಾನನೇ ವಾಪಸ್ ತಗೊಳುತ್ತೆ, ಹೇಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ. ರಾಂಗ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಅದು. Enforceable by courts but can be suspended during emergency. Is it? Are fundamental rights enforceable by courts and can be suspended during emergency? ಅವಾಗಲಿಂದ ಇದನ್ನೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. Correct statement. Let's see third statement. Mere guidelines for the state, not legally binding. No way. Fundamental rights are legally binding all over India. All over India, wherever you are, whoever you are, whether you are Karnataka person, Goa person, Arunachal Pradesh person, Delhi person, for you fundamental right applies because you are citizen of India. There are some fundamental rights which are applicable to foreigners also. But here fourth option is applicable only to the citizens, not to the foreigners. Wrong. Just now I told you fundamental rights are also applicable to foreigners, not only citizens. So correct answer is option C. Directive principles of state policy. Part 4 in the Indian Constitution, very important. As I told you, ide Ireland flag, same India flag tarane Indian colors ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಇದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಫ್ಲಾಗ್ ಅಡ್ಡಡ್ಡ ಇದೆ, ಇದು ಉದ್ದುದ್ದ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಶೋಕ ಚಕ್ರ ಇರಲ್ಲ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಸೊ ಅಂಬೇಡ್ಕರ್, chief architect of Indian Constitution, he called the DPSP, Directive Principle of State Policy, as novel feature of Indian Constitution. Very important, because it promotes social and economical democracy. ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕ ಪ್ರಜಾಪ್ರಭುತ್ವ ಹಾಗೂ ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ಪ್ರಜಾಪ್ರಭುತ್ವವನ್ನು ಅದು ಸಾರುತ್ತೆ. Directive Principles of State Policy. Now if you see fundamental duties, original constitution had no fundamental duties. Original constitution had no fundamental duties. ನಾನು ಆಗಲೇ ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಅಂದಾಗ ನಿಮ್ಗೊಬ್ರು ಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಲೀಡರ್ ನೆನಪಾಗಬೇಕು, ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧೀಜಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಇದ್ದಾಗ 1975 to 77 ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ವಾಸ್ ಇಂಪೋಸ್ಡ್. ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ ಕೂಡ ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸಿ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಸ್ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಎಮರ್ಜೆನ್ಸೀಸ್ ವೇರ್ ಫಂಡಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಡ್ಯೂಟೀಸ್ ವರ್ ಆ್ಯಡೆಡ್, ವಿಚ್ ವಾಸ್ ರೆಕಮೆಂಡೆಡ್ ಬೈ ಸ್ವರಣ್ ಸಿಂಗ್ ಕಮಿಟಿ. ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಯಾವುದೇ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಸೆಂಟರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಆಗಲಿ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ವಿಚ್ ಕಮಿಟಿ recommended fundamental duties? For Swaran Singh Committee, SSC. Students, this last and one of the important features which will be learned, secular state. Students, does India has any religion? No. India has no official religion mentioned. We'll further see in the upcoming sessions. I hope you understood the salient features of Indian Constitution, and we all, if you have missed our previous classes, please do go back and watch it. It is available. So I hope you understood our today, whatever we have learned so far, and we will meet you in the next class. Thank you, students. Please be regular to our class.